Welcome to episode 149 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. Today you'll meet Sue Willoughby. She's an equine coach who helps people rediscover confidence, clarity, and personal truth through meaningful interactions with horses. Today, she uses her lifelong connection with horses to help women in middle life connect with their bodies, emotions, and authentic identity. Here are some key takeaways from our conversation. First, horses communicate at a deep, nonverbal level by syncing to a person's heartbeat and emotions. That helps individuals recognize what they are truly feeling inside themselves. Second, equine coaching often reveals hidden patterns such as difficulties with boundaries or leadership, because horses naturally respond to the energy and the clarity a person projects. Third, working with horses brings people out of their heads and into their own bodies, which helps them understand emotions like joy, anxiety, and fear in completely different ways. Finally, many women in midlife feel stuck in long-held identities, and being present with horses allows them to explore who they are now and who they want to become. To tell us more about what gives her life meaning and purpose today, please welcome Sue Willoughby to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Sue. I really appreciate it. What prompted you to get into equine coaching?
Greg, that's an excellent question. And thank you, first of all. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Equine coaching horses have always been a thread in my life from the time I was a little girl. I think most girls go through a horsey phase, and I'm just one that never grew out of it. But it's funny because, like I said, horses were always a thread. I grew up in an alcoholic household with my mom, and it was always a little challenging. And when I was around the horses, it felt good. It was a place I really wanted to be. I felt like they were supportive, and I didn't really quite understand why at the time. That's just how they are, and by being in their energy sphere, it can be comforting, it can be supportive, it can be a lot of things. It can be educational. And then over the years, I had opportunities to do therapeutic riding, to volunteer and or work at a summer camp in the therapeutic riding program. And then as an adult, I volunteered at a therapeutic riding facility. And one thing led to another. And I got certified as an equine massage therapist so that I could support the horses that were supporting the humans. And it was a different space to be in, where I was creating the supportive container energetically for the horses to heal. And then I'm always aware of what's going on and opportunities that are presented to me. And I started to hear and understand, little opportunities came up where I was being presented with equine coaching, and I didn't really know that much about it. So I did some research, got in touch with someone from at the time it was the Coel Institute for equine coaching, and now it's the Center for Equine Coaching. And I reached out to one of their instructors and learned a little bit more about it, and I enrolled, got certified as an equine coach, and then I went on to get certified as a master facilitator, which allows me to do more group coaching activities or events around equine coaching. So that's kind of the condensed version.
I love it. There's a lot of people who've told me that there's a special bond between young girls and horses that just exists. And a few years ago, I interviewed somebody who uses horses in her program to build the self-confidence of girls and young boys, mostly girls. And she said there's something about having a 100-pound girl controlling a 100-pound animal that really builds the confidence. How is that, and why does it work that way?
Yeah, horses connect with us on a different level and dogs, other animals can be therapeutic as well. But the way horses connect, when you think about dogs, they're predators. They're a predatory animal by nature. Horses are prey animals, whether they're 600 pounds, 1,000 pounds, or 1,600 pounds. They are prey when they're in the wild, and that is instinctive to them to protect themselves. So they are constantly processing all of the information through all of their senses at any given moment because they need to understand, are they safe? Is that thing, whatever that thing is, that person, whatever, going to harm me? Do I need to get out of here or whatever? So when they're also herd animals, so they're prey animals and they're herd animals. And when we're working with them, whether it's one-on-one or whatever, they are communicating with us and we are communicating with them, unbeknownst to us most of the time, on a nonverbal nonverbal language, obviously, because they don't, you can talk to horses all day long and they just be like, okay, whatever you're saying, that's great. But I am connecting with you from a heart center. So they are feeling our heartbeat. They are syncing up with our biorhythm, so to speak, right? And they see and feel what is inside of us rather than the facade or the persona that we want to present to the world. So for individuals with special needs or for young people who are maybe struggling with communication and relationship, horses are great for that because they're seeing what is really going on inside the individual rather than what we may want them to see. Does that make sense a little bit?
Fascinating, to be honest, that they have the ability to sense that just naturally when they're interacting with humans. That's really cool. So how does this work for therapeutic reasons, being around horses? How are people benefited by just being around them, let alone riding them?
Yeah. All the work that I do, I have worked in therapeutic riding situations before, but all the work that I do is on the ground. For example, from a riding standpoint, their movement, their connection, that types of things can help people with their physical disabilities as well as their emotional struggles. And all the work I do, like I said, is on the ground. So when, as I mentioned previously, we are in the presence of a horse, they are connecting with us like any other member of their herd. So when they are communicating with each other, it's all nonverbal, but they do, like I said, use a lot of their senses to pick up on a sound that may be very far away or something that they see. Their vision is very good and they have almost 360-degree vision, and they use all of their senses. Smell, their skin is also very sensitive. So when we're in proximity to them, they are communicating with us and we are, like I said, communicating with them on some level. For example, if someone is having a difficult time with boundaries and they're with the horse is at liberty, so it's free to move around, and the horses will sense things. It's a little science, it's a little magic, it's a whole lot of interesting stuff that happens. And sometimes somebody's having a challenge with boundaries. The horse may come up to them and start to get a little snuggly and a little bit more snuggly. And at first, I may say, how does that feel to you? And they're like, oh, that's really nice. I like it. They may initially like the close contact of the horse. And then the horse is getting a little bit maybe pushier or in their space a little bit more. And then I'm like, so how does it feel now? And they're like, it feels a little uncomfortable. And it gives me the opportunity to say, why does it feel uncomfortable? And they say, they're encroaching on my boundaries. Oh. And then my question is, why are you letting them encroach in your boundaries? I don't want to offend them. I don't want to hurt their feelings. It's very funny how people translate that to the horse. And then that gives me the opportunity to say, how does that translate in the real world? Oh, and then they have this kind of aha moment and they're like, wow, yeah, I do. Maybe I say yes more than I need to. Maybe I let people walk all over me. I don't stand my ground. Oh, okay. Let's work on boundaries then.
Is there a cross-sex thing between the horses and the people as well? Do male horses seem to relate better to female humans or vice versa?
No, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. There's no special training. The horses are just being the horse.
Okay.
And they're doing what they feel is right based on what they're picking up from the person that they're working with. And I am just the translator. I'm the person on the outside looking in saying, oh, okay, I'm observing this from the horse. And I'm observing this behavior from the person. How is that coming together with what this person needs or what they think they need and what is really going on? Because a lot of times we spend so much time in our heads and not enough time in our bodies and being honest with ourselves that the horses will push those boundaries. And when I say boundaries, I don't mean just necessarily proximity. They will call you on your stuff pretty quickly. They don't mess around. And they can peel back the layers fairly quickly. They can also be really good with leadership too, because horses will look to us if we are in their herd. They look to who is the calmest, most level-headed person or animal in their herd. And if it's just two people, they're going to be like, are you going to be a good leader for me if I need you to be? Or do I need to take the leadership role? And trust me, you don't want the horse necessarily to take the leadership role. Always.
One of my favorite movies has been The Horse Whisperer. And it was just interesting how this gentleman could get inside the mind of the horse. And it's like they're communicating with each other. And that in some racing movies as well, where the person will just sit there and look eye to eye at the horse, and it feels as though they can sense what's going on in their soul. And so they can do that with humans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. And the other thing that's beautiful about them is that having that experience, that coaching experience with a horse, most people, let's say all people, feel judged on some level. And if you're experiencing something, you may not want to tell somebody, or you may not be able to be honest about your feelings because you feel like you're going to be judged. The beautiful thing about horses is they're not there to judge you.
Right.
And they don't have that ability to judge you. They're just seeing and feeling what is really going on inside you. And so that does allow people to melt away a few of those layers that they may be hiding behind because they don't feel judged. And they might be able to then come out of their shell and open up layers of communication that they were not able to have before.
What age groups do you typically work with?
I have worked with all age groups, but I typically work with women in middle age because women of a certain age tend to get to a point where we start to question our identities. We may have had one identity for a very long time, and now we're like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And the thing is, when we do get, I will say stuck for the lack of a better word, in an identity that we've had for a very long time, it's scary to step out of that. It's maybe we want to try something new, but it's scary because part of it might be looking like a beginner again if you want to try something completely different. And that, once again, brings up the fear, the judgment, all of those things that keep us like, okay, I'm just not going to do it then.
So how does this help people discover or rediscover their true potential?
That's another great question. It goes back to being in your body instead of in your head and being able to feel things. So if I'm working with someone and I might ask them, what would you like support around today? Or what can we work on in this session? And if they say something like, I don't know how to experience joy, or I need to get more joy in my life. And the first question I would ask to that is, what does joy feel like to you? And that kind of gets deer in the headlights a lot of times, or whatever it is, because they don't know what it feels like. We've lost that communication with our body. So by the pure ability or to be with a horse and the fact that they are so in the present moment because of the fact that they're prey animals and they're herd animals, and they are processing everything in real time and then letting it go, it gives us the opportunity to take a deep breath and figure out what exactly are we feeling in our body. What does joy feel like? What does anger feel like? What does anything feel like? Because every emotion and everything that's happened to us is stored somewhere in our body. So when we have a reaction to something, maybe before we start crying, we have felt something in our body. So
We might
it
not be
allows
able,
people.
yeah, we might
Yeah.
not be able to define it, but we sure know what it is when we experience it.
Right. Yeah. So if you can start to feel things rather than think things, then it gives you that moment to just take a step back and experience, oh, okay. When something happy happens or something joyful happens, I feel lighter, I feel taller, I feel whatever. And if something that triggers us in a negative way, it may hit us right in the gut. It may feel like someone's sitting in our chest. So these are all things that we can start to be curious about in terms of physical sensations that will then translate into, it's not that, like, the fear of starting something new isn't going to be that bad. Right? So if somebody's trying to experience joy, they may start out by just being very rigid and marching around the arena. And then I'll say, is that how joy feels to you? And they're like, yeah, no, not necessarily. And then just by knowing and feeling that the horse is not going to judge them or laugh at them, it opens up a whole new way for them to be and frees them up to be able to experiment and be curious about things. Like, maybe if I skip, it will feel whatever it is.
So does this come out through interaction with the animal or caring for the animal or riding or all of them?
In the work that I do it's experiential being with the animal. Okay. So a session may be an hour and a half, whatever, and the person is in a arena. Maybe it's a round pen or a round arena, or maybe we're just out in the pasture and they're doing advance and retreat and they're just understanding how to communicate in relationship with another being that is not a human. So it's very experiential that way. The horse is allowed to move around and be free and do whatever they want. And I'm observing what the horse is doing. Now, it can also be grooming if someone doesn't feel comfortable. Grooming the horse can be very therapeutic. You're just with the horse, you're experiencing them, and you're brushing them and feeling close to them. So it can be any number of things, but it's just through contact and being in the presence of them and interacting with them. And it can be interacting in any way that feels comfortable to you.
How many horses do you have?
Personally, I have one, which is plenty. But I work with a couple of rescue organizations and other horses in my barn. It doesn't matter how many. You can work with any horse. They don't need special training or anything, but it's fun to work with the rescue horses because they may have gone through some trauma and some experiences themselves, and they love to be part of something, and they love to feel like they're being useful, and it's really beautiful.
And they can probably have some empathy for the people that they are working with. That's neat. Kind of that two-way street. What's your horse's name?
My horse, his name is Moose. The horse named Moose. I feel like I should write a children's book about him. He's big.
Oh my goodness. How big is he?
He's not 1,600 pounds. He's 1,200 pounds and he's like 16 hands. So he's a very large fellow. He's a very sturdy fellow.
So he could be intimidating for some people.
Yeah.
Until they get to know him. Okay. Well, I like the name. How'd you come up with that? He's just a big guy.
That was his name when I got him, and he was about 15 when I got him. So I just thought it fit. He's a moose, and he's just a big, gentle creature. He's very curious. He likes to coach. Actually, he's very good at it.
Oh, that's neat. On your website, you have a quote that I just love: that life is an echo. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it is an echo, and horses will echo our behaviors and they will mirror our behaviors. And through all of that any interaction that they have, it bounces back and forth and ripples out into the universe.
Okay.
That's about the best way I can put it. That's my interpretation.
And also that what you are putting out seems to come back to you as well.
Yeah.
And I
feel that. Yeah.
Okay. And some people would call that karma, but it goes beyond that, isn't it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Karma is an interesting thing. That's another discussion.
You mentioned your core values on your website, the humility, honesty, authenticity, vulnerability, courage, and equanimity. Is that the right one?
Yeah.
How'd you come up with those?
It's been over time, like through my personal journey, that all of those things were pieces that I have picked up along the way. And equanimity for me is actually a big one. And especially now with so much chaos in the world, and equanimity is all about finding calm within ourselves amid the chaos.
Right.
And then being able to, if we are in a state of chaos ourselves, we can't be helpful to those people in our community, whoever those people are. And our communities may be large and may be small, but I think that people are starting to realize that they need to come together in community and also be able to feel grounded and feel centered so that we can support each other, because I think we do all need a lot of support. And it's not just about the chaos in the world right now. And I think a lot of that kind of came out of the pandemic as well, when we couldn't connect physically and we couldn't connect. That was difficult. And I think that left a mark on everyone, obviously. And I think it's still hard. I still think we need to rehumanize a bit. And here we are sitting on a podcast, but it's hard. I think that some people still struggle with that. And rather than be divisive, if we can come together, but we have to find peace in ourselves. So equanimity, that was a really long answer. Sorry about that.
No, I would agree with that. Most seasoned citizens are isolated anyway. They live by themselves. And then COVID was just devastating to them by shutting them into their homes. They couldn't go out even to the grocery store, which is like entering into the community, even though you don't interact with anybody. So I could see your point on that. Are there any of those core values that are more important than the others?
I'd say they're all really important, but authenticity, I feel like resilience is also another one. And if you can't be yourself, that's what horses also are really good at, is helping you find that grounded center, that point of authenticity. Like I said, people get wrapped up in their identities and then they forget who they really. So I think that those things are really important, and they're important to me, and that's the way I live my life.
The horses certainly are authentic, right? They're not putting on a mask and trying to be somebody else.
They don't know how to do that.
They're not going to try and pretend to be Secretariat and all that kind of stuff. They're just going to love on people.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness. So did it cost you anything to get involved in this as a coach?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was not an insignificant amount of time and resources financially to invest in this line of work. But I should say and it was a beautiful investment. It was an investment that I would not trade for anything. If anyone is interested in becoming a coach, and there's lots of life coaching styles out there. And so we did learn all about different coaching styles and different ways to coach. The horses are like the icing on the cake, to be honest. And they just really bring it all home in a very, very beautiful, very authentic way.
You had mentioned that you had undergone some training with certain centers in order to become a coach like these horses in helping to bring healing to hurting people. What did the training involve? And how long did that take?
Yeah. Speaking of COVID, our cohort started, it was a mix of, and they already had online classes. So the training itself, there's a lot of online Zoom coursework that we did. And then we had, I believe it was 3 or 4 on-sites. And when we would actually go to a farm and we would coach each other, and we would learn how to coach with the horses and work with the horses. And some people come to this line of work with no horse experience. Now, I've been around horses since I was a kid. And honestly, that doesn't really matter, because it was funny. One of my first coaching experiences was all about, I know all about horses. In my head, I'm like, I know all about horses. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to show them what's what. I was humbled very quickly. It's not about the horse. And those people, it's not about the horse. It's not about what you can make them do or what exercises you can put them through. It's not about that. So it was probably about 1.5 years, I think, of the the Equus coaching, and then you have to go through a certification process where you get evaluated. And then I went on, like I said, then it was another year or so of training for the group coaching or the master facilitation. So then you had to actually hold a group coaching event and all of that. So it's a little bit of party planning.
Okay. Did you have to go to
a few more pieces?
Did you have to go to a specific location to take this training and to go through that kind of with the animal kind of portion of it?
Yes, the on-sites were held at various ranches. There was a couple of ranches that we went to. One of the ranches that I also have had events at in Paso Robles, California. We have ranches that we work with in like Colorado, I believe like outside of Santa Barbara and outside of Tucson. So there's a lot of places where we went to do our on-site training, where they would have herds of horses that we could work with and volunteers that would come in to be coached. So it was really fun.
So if a seasoned citizen wanted to do this by themselves and get into this kind of therapy, is it better for them to live in a more rural area than a big city?
If they wanted to be a coach, is that what you mean? Yeah. Not necessarily, because there are so many facilities out there. You just have to find the right ones. A lot of times rescue facilities are good. I lived in Seattle. So if you can find places nearby, you don't have to move to a rural area. But there's lots of riding stables and even smaller private riding stables. And you can always buy your own horse and coach with your own horse. So it's not a requirement that you live in a rural area necessarily.
What kind of challenges did this create for you?
I think it also forced me to look inside. I was already doing spiritual work and working on a lot of different things, but it really did bring home a lot of my personal development as well, because in order to be a coach, you need to, look at your own stuff, to be honest with you. So there were definitely some things that I was still working on, and being comfortable in my body and being comfortable with myself and being able to be available and hold space for people in a way that coaching is not therapy. So it's really about, like I said, holding space for people and allowing them to discover, right, creating an environment where they feel comfortable, and they're allowing them to discover that they already have the answers and helping them bring those to the surface. So it was a lot of interpersonal work too, which I loved. It was great.
Okay. And that took you, a couple of years, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, ours got stretched out a little because of COVID, and our on-sites where we had to be careful about all that stuff.
Right. And now you've turned this into quite a platform. You've got a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that one.
I do. I started the podcast over a year ago, June, and I originally was calling it A Life Worth Being, because that's my tagline for my coaching practice is Awaken a Life Worth Being. And that's great. And I had, I don't know how many episodes under my belt. And then I was like, I just wasn't getting the rhythm that I wanted and the listeners and stuff. And so I went through a rebrand that kind of fits me and my personality a little bit better. And it's now called Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. So
that'll get your attention. Are you interviewing people there, or are you just teaching?
No, I interview people. So I do some solo episodes, but mostly I interview women or people, not just women, men and women, who are at a certain point in their life. They have gone through a major transition, come out on the other side, whether it be personal, business, and let's face it, those things are all related, and have an interesting story to tell. So it's super. It's beautiful. I've talked to people all over the world as a podcaster. It's a beautiful way to connect with people.
Is this a weekly podcast?
Yes. Drops every Tuesday.
All right. Every Tuesday. Super. And so they can go to your website and access that, or is it available on Spotify and all these other locations?
It's on all the platforms.
Okay.
Yep. It's on all the platforms. And if somebody wants to binge, they can go to Apple. The podcast itself has a website called Midlife Badass Women, I think. Okay. But you can go to my Willoughby coaching website as well and look under media, but it is available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, the video version on YouTube.
So if people tune into this, what kinds of things will they walk away with?
Lots of cool stuff. very relatable stories that other people are going through. And it can be anything from, I had just had someone on talking about perimenopause. I have people that have blown up their whole lives and done complete changes. So it's a broad spectrum of people that are relatable to people in their midlife, much like your podcast as well. And through life experiences and vulnerability, they have made changes and come out on the other side. So I would say life experience and maybe just some interesting things about how people go through transitions.
That's one of the best things about turning 60 or even 50. You stop caring really about what other people think. And you can be authentic. And when you're authentic and people are like, oh, that's cool. And it leads to some great conversations across platforms and you're out of your silos and all that other kind of stuff. And great things can happen. So that's neat. So you turned your podcast into a newsletter too, the Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. What's in the newsletter?
I usually pick a topic and I go, and it's not like an advertisement for the podcast. So I may pick a topic that I've talked about on the podcast at some point. I like to pick something that has some sort of actionable takeaways, whether it's around authenticity, whether it's around something that I'm experiencing at the time, and I will have a behind the scenes point of view or experience that I'm having, and then some actionable takeaways that people can try. So here's a couple of tips and tricks and see if it works for you. And then maybe some other events that I have coming up, I'll do a blurb about that. If I'm sponsoring something, all kinds of stuff.
Have you ever thought of writing a book?
I have, actually. And I have a couple of things that I'm working on. One book is probably going to come out in the next week or so. It's not what you think. It's a little bit more business focused because I was in real estate. I've been in real estate for over 10 years. So I've got over a decade of real estate experience. And I wanted to blend real estate with podcasting because I think podcasting is a beautiful opportunity for real estate agents to have that as a part of their marketing campaign. So I also have a limited series podcast, which acts as a mini course and has a downloadable workbook. It's called Podcasting for Real Estate Pros, where it's 21 episodes, and the episodes are anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So they're really short. They average around 8 to 10 minutes. Walking a real estate professional or an entrepreneur or actually anybody, and fill in the blank, just because it's called Podcasting for Real Estate Pros, why podcasting is important from a marketing standpoint, and how to set up your own podcast, how to get over kind of the fear of all of that and launch your first few episodes. And that's a free resource. And that's also available on Apple and Spotify and all of the platforms.
I love that because seasoned citizens have a lifetime of experience and a wealth of knowledge, and they need to share that. The world needs your voice. So I would encourage people to look into that, take the course, and start following those footsteps, because that'd be a great resource for them to use their talents, skills, and abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have time to do these things and experiment and have fun. Yeah,
exactly. Just because they might have always wanted to do it and wanted to see if they could try, and nobody's going to laugh. Just get out there and do it.
Exactly.
If you could turn the clock back, is there anything you do differently?
I think I would be kinder to my body. At 66, I'm like, you go to get up and you're like, wow, that hip pain it wasn't there before. Yeah. Generally speaking, no. I feel like I've done and experienced a lot of things that I've wanted to experience. I should have been kinder to my body, because when you're young, you'd think, it'll be fine. And as you get older, so that would probably be the one thing that I would do differently.
Absolutely. Could still start treating their body a little better at any age, right? And it would probably go well. Do you have any advice for people over the age of 50 who may be struggling with what to do to give their lives more meaning and purpose?
Yes, I do, actually. ABC, always be curious. I think that we lose our sense of curiosity and our sense of adventure. And get out of your rut and start being curious about other things, even if you take the same path to the grocery store, or the same path to work, or the same path to whatever, look and find something that you hadn't seen before, and be curious about it. Start being curious about the world around you. and open your eyes and look at the world through beginner eyes and not the same clouded glasses that you've been wearing.
I love that. My church the tagline that they like to talk about is they encourage people to take notice, then take interest. So look and see what's out there, and then go out there and find out what's going on, or introduce yourself to that individual, because that person stood out for a reason. They might need you for whatever it is that they're in there for. And so it just may be an opportunity to form a great friendship with somebody you've never met before. How can people connect with you if they'd like to follow your journey or ask you a question?
They can reach me through my website, willoughbycoaching.com. I'm also, most of my posting is on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn, but Instagram is Sue_Willoughby. And then my podcast as well is a great way to, if you want to hear a little bit more of me.
Very good. Thank you for sharing your story with me today. I found it interesting. I know a lot of people love being around horses. There's just something about having those animals with you, because they are so loving and they just exude confidence by themselves generally. Most of them do, and that can rub off on us.
Exactly.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Sue Willoughby grew up around horses and always felt drawn to their calming energy. Over the years, she volunteered at therapeutic riding programs, became trained in equine massage, and ultimately earned certifications as both an equine coach and a master facilitator. Equine coaching gives Sue tremendous meaning and purpose at this stage in her life. She said the work continues to deepen her own growth while allowing her to hold space for others as they rediscover their true potential. Horses generally mirror what's happening on the inside of a person and reveal things that words often hide. That process helps people reconnect with their inner wisdom, build confidence, and move forward with more clarity and authenticity. Sue explained that coaching with horses is not about riding or performance. It is about being fully present in the moment and allowing the horse to guide each person toward the awareness they seek. For Sue, the most fulfilling part of equine coaching is witnessing the transformation that occurs when someone realizes they already have the answers within them. The horses simply bring those answers to the surface. She believes this kind of work is especially meaningful for people in midlife who feel stuck, uncertain, or disconnected from their sense of purpose. Horses help them step into courage, curiosity, and possibility. If you'd like to connect with Sue, learn more about equine coaching, or follow her journey, you can visit her website at www.willoughbycoaching.com. She is also active on Instagram and LinkedIn, as well as through her podcast, Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. That's all for this week's show. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thank you for listening, and if you like the show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.